Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking an administrative report and, well, trying to make sense of it, turning it into something more actionable.
Yeah, we're looking deep into an official marine investigation. This one's from the Republic of Liberia, the flag state.
And it covers a really tragic missing persons case at sea. Our goal isn't just, laying out the facts.
Right, it's about understanding the systemic issues. What failed?
Yeah.
How did a moment of distress turn, well, fatal?
The case involves the MV Cape Satsuki. That's IMO 9960136.
And the timing is important here. It was a brand new bulk carrier, literally on its maiden voyage from Japan heading to Canada back in July 2023.
The person involved was an Able Seafarer Deck 2, the ASD-2. He was reported missing overboard on July 30th, 2023.
Happened in the Sea of Japan.
And we really need to stress this is an administrative investigation.
Absolutely. The Liberian authorities, their goal is finding the root cause, figuring out what contributed, and recommending ways to avoid it happening again.
It's not about assigning civil or criminal liability, none of that.
No, purely safety focused, which actually lets us, look beyond just accident or intent.
It gives us a window into the safety culture, the real pressures of life at sea.
Exactly.
So let's set the scene first. What was the mood like just before this happened? Okay, right.
Yeah, actually, it started with a celebration. This was July 29th, the evening before.
Okay.
The master held a small get-together crew mess room celebrating the new ship, the maiden voyage.
That was pretty standard.
Totally. Sources say there was dancing, singing. It wrapped up around 10:15, 10:30 p.m. local time.
And the ASD-2, the seafarer who went missing. Tell us about him.
He was a 30-year-old Indian national, seemed healthy, experienced too, been seafaring since 2014.
Okay.
And this is tough, but he was recently engaged, planning a wedding for next April.
Oh, wow. And witnesses said he was at the party.
Yep. Said he joined in, seemed okay, good spirits, even danced a bit, just seemed like a regular member of the crew enjoying the moment.
But there's always a but, isn't there? Things weren't quite as straightforward as they seemed on the surface.
No, not at all. The investigation found some issues pretty quickly. Violations of company policy, actually.
Like what?
Well, first, alcohol. The report states he'd bought beer back in Japan before joining the ship.
Oh.
And empty cans were found later in his cabin. That's a clear violation. Most companies have a strict zero personal alcohol policy on board.
Right, for obvious safety reasons.
Exactly. And then there was the phone call, the ASD-3, the guy in the next cabin sharing a wall.
Yeah.
He testified that the ASD-2 was up late, talking loudly on his phone until almost 1 a.m. Thero and 50 local time, long after the party.
So potentially violating alcohol rules and probably cutting into his required rest hours.
Almost certainly. Especially since he had the early watch coming up 4 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Why are those things, the alcohol, the lack of rest, why are they such big red flags at sea? Seems minor maybe to someone on land.
Well, they point to a breakdown in following the structure that keeps everyone safe. Those rules aren't just red tape.
They're fundamental.
Absolutely. Rest hours, alcohol policies, they're about ensuring fitness for duty, someone drinking alone, staying up late when they have watch. It suggests something's wrong. Maybe anxiety, distress.
An early warning sign.
A warning sign that sadly got missed. And that lack of rest, maybe the alcohol, it likely set the stage for what happened next morning.
Okay, let's shift to that morning then. July 30th. The crisis point seems to be the 0400 watch.
Yes. That's where things really started to unravel. The ASD-2 just didn't show up for his 4 a.m. bridge watch.
Didn't show up at all.
No. The ASD-1, who was supposed to be relieved by him, called his cabin around 3:45 a.m.
No.
The ASD-1 said the response he got was just not clear, vague, unresponsive.
Not good.
No. So the ASD-1, knowing this was serious, went down to the cabin right at 4 a.m.
What did he find?
He found the ASD-2 by the window, smoking, still talking on his phone, and he just refused to go to the bridge. Flat out refused.
Wow. That's more than just being late. That sounds like something else is going on.
Definitely sounds like more than just reluctance. It actually took the second officer getting involved, going down there himself.
And he eventually got him to the bridge.
Yeah, finally got him up there around era 420 LT. 20 minutes late for watch, after refusing duty.
So what happened then on the bridge?
Well, according to the chief officer, the CO, the interaction was disturbing.
How so?
The CO greeted him, even offered him coffee, trying to be normal. But the ASD-2 was completely unresponsive. Silent.
Just silent.
Yeah. The CO described him as just standing in one place, physically there, but mentally somewhere else entirely, or deeply distressed.
And the CEO just let that continue.
For about 35 minutes, yeah. Then, around 0455, 0458, right about sunrise,
He spoke.
the ASD-2 finally spoke, asked the CO if he could go down, leave the bridge.
And the CO agreed.
He did. He later said, there wasn't any traffic, it was daylight. Basically, navigationally, it was safe.
But the investigation saw that differently, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. That was flagged as a critical error, a major point in the report.
Why?
Because the report is clear. The CO should have done something before that. When the ASD-2 was unresponsive, refusing duty, that demanded action. Disciplinary, maybe, but more importantly, welfare action.
Right, not just let him wander off.
Exactly. Letting someone who is obviously confused or disturbed leave a supervised area like the bridge to go back unsupervised?
Yeah.
It's a massive breach of the duty of care.
The CO was focused on ship safety, maybe, not human safety at that moment.
It seems that way. He saw no traffic, but missed the signs of a person in crisis.
In that decision, letting him go down,
Yeah.
that created the window for the worst to happen.
It created that incredibly narrow, critical window. Things moved very fast after that.
Okay, take us through those final minutes.
Right. So he leaves the bridge around every 455, 0458. Then, maybe 10, 11 minutes later, around 0509 LT.
Yep.
The phone on the bridge rings. CO picks up, says hello, no answer. Silence on the other end. He hangs up.
Strange. But maybe just a dropped call.
Maybe. But then, just 5 minutes later, 05410 LT, the phone rings again.
And this time?
This time, it was the ASD-2. But his voice, the CO described it as not clear, very broken.
Broken how?
Hard to understand. But the CO thought he heard the ASD-2 say something like, poop deck, dump or jump.
Dump or jump. Oh my God, that's unambiguous.
It's an immediate, desperate sound. The CO knew instantly something was terribly wrong and called the bosun right away for help.
Okay, so the bosun heads to the poop deck. What did he find?
The bosun's testimony paints this really awful final picture. He said he went straight there and found the ASD-2 hanging on the lowest railing on the outside, over the side of the ship, forward of the port gangway area.
Hanging onto the outside. So he hadn't fallen yet.
Not yet. But here's where the timeline gets a little fuzzy, actually.
How so?
The bosun stated he got to the poop deck around 0507 LT.
0507. But you said the CO got the dump or jump call at 0514. That's 7 minutes later.
Exactly. There's a discrepancy. Did the bosun's timing estimate get skewed in the moment? Was he maybe 7 minutes fast? Or maybe the CO called the bosun after the silent call at 0509, just out of a bad feeling, and the RO514 call confirmed the worst.
Did the investigation settle that?
They noted the conflict, but ultimately they focused on what the bosun said happened when he got there, whenever that was precisely.
Right. What did he say happened?
He said he tried to grab the ASD-2, hold him with his right arm, but just as he did, the ASD-2 let go of the railing with his other hand.
Oh, no.
And that sudden shift in weight, the full weight coming onto the bosun's grip, he couldn't hold on. The ASD-2 fell into the sea.
Just slipped through his grasp. How awful.
A desperate, terrible moment.
The response must have been immediate then.
Instantaneous. 0520 LT, the man overboard marker buoy, the ring buoy with the light and smoke signal, was released.
Standard procedure.
Yes. The CO hit the general alarm. The vessel immediately started search and rescue. They did an Anderson turn. It's a specific maneuver ships use in a man overboard. A hard turn designed to bring the ship back along its own wake as quickly as possible to get back to the spot where the person went in. Very tight, very fast.
So they started searching right away. How long did that go on?
It was extensive. The Cape Satsuki launched its own rescue boat twice. Once around 6 a.m., again around 8:20 a.m.
Were they alone?
No, they were coordinating with the Japanese Coast Guard, the JCG. They joined the search, too.
And how long did the ship search?
The ship itself searched for 13 hours straight before the JCG released them to continue their voyage.
13 hours. But the Coast Guard continued.
Yeah, the JCG kept searching until the next evening, July 31st, around 10:40 p.m., but sadly, they never found him.
So the focus shifted from rescue to investigation.
Exactly. The ship carried on to Canada, Roberts Bank.
And that's where the Canadians got involved.
Right. On August 13th, the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, boarded the vessel. They even brought a K-9 unit.
Police and dogs. Why, if the Liberian investigation was just administrative, safety-focused?
Well, anytime someone goes missing from a vessel, especially under unclear or potentially suspicious circumstances, remember the alcohol, the struggle, the authorities in the next port of call often get involved. It's thoroughness.
Due diligence.
Pretty much. They inspected the poop deck area, interviewed the key people, again, Master, CO, Bosun, the ASD-3 next door, and they looked through the ASD-2's cabin, photographed the last entry in his diary.
Gathering all possible evidence.
Right. That cross-border cooperation added forensic detail, which fed back into the final Liberian report.
Okay, so putting all that together, the weird behavior, the calls, the bosun finding him hanging on, the struggle.
Yeah.
What did the official report conclude? What was the probable cause?
This is really the core finding, I think. They concluded that the ASD-2's second phone call, the dump or jump one, was definitively a call for help or assistance.
Not necessarily a declaration of intent.
Exactly. And the fact that Bosun found him hanging onto that rail, actively holding himself there, that suggested to the investigators that the ASD-2 did not want to go over the side and did not want to fall into the sea. He was holding on for life.
So that really pushes back against the idea it was a straightforward suicide attempt.
It does. It complicates that narrative significantly. So the probable cause they landed on was, well, nuanced.
Right.
They said he might have climbed over the rail trying to get attention because he was in that confused mental state. Or possibly he just slipped and fell due to other unknown factors while near the rail in that state.
The key phrase seems to be confused mental state.
That's the driver they identified. And by focusing on that, the investigation pivots. It moves away from blaming the individual.
And looks at the system, the support structure.
Precisely. Which brings us to the systemic failure. The root cause, for what they call ISM purposes, the International Safety Management Code.
Right, the ISM code. That's the big rule book for ship safety management. What was the failure there?
The primary root cause was pinned on ISM Code Section 6.5.
Okay, what does 6.5 cover?
It's about training. It requires the shipping company to have procedures to identify any training needed for personnel involved in the safety management system.
And the failure was?
A serious lack of training, specifically for officers and crew on how to recognize and deal with a crewmate who is showing signs of being in a disturbed mental state.
So they might have had fire drills down pat, but they had no drill for a mental health crisis.
That's a good way to put it. The safety culture didn't extend effectively to mental well-being. The CO knew how to handle no traffic, but not an unresponsive, distressed human being.
Were there other factors mentioned? Contributory factors?
Yes, they acknowledged the ASD-2 wasn't following policy. The alcohol, missing watch, those were factors. But the critical system failure was that the CO wasn't equipped to handle the situation.
Allowing him to leave the bridge.
Allowing him to leave unsupervised when he was clearly not okay. It was a failure of situational awareness, but a very specific kind of awareness of crew welfare, not just navigation.
So what came out of this? What were the recommendations? How do they try to stop this happening again?
The mandate was clear. A fleet-wide notice demanding intensive training.
Training on what, specifically?
On recognizing and treating depression and mental illness. They didn't just say do training. They pointed to existing guidance. Things like the mentally healthy ships policy.
Mentally healthy ships. What does that actually involve? Putting up some posters.
It's meant to be much more than that. It involves creating a culture where it's okay to talk about mental health, where resources are available, and critically, the investigation stressed that officers need better situational awareness training that includes this. How to talk to someone who seems depressed or confused, how to deal with them, treat them, not just as a discipline problem, but as someone needing help.
So making mental health assessment part of an officer's core safety skill set.
Exactly. It needs to be as fundamental as checking the radar or planning the voyage. Mandatory. Part of the safety management system.
Wow. This whole report, it's a stark warning, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have this experienced guy, 30 years old, engaged, life ahead of him, and his distress goes from 0 to fatal, basically, within an hour on the poop deck. And the report clearly says the system failed him.
It really does shift the focus.
Yeah.
It's not just a tragic accident, not an unexplained suicide note. It's presented as a failure of training, a failure of support, a failure to meet the requirements of international safety rules.
The takeaway seems to be that situational awareness on a ship has to be about more than just weather and traffic.
Absolutely. It has to include the people, their mental state, their well-being. That's now formally part of the safety equation because of incidents like this.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe something for you, the listener, to consider. We've talked about the new training needed, recognizing and treating mental distress. But what about the environment itself? What impact does just being at sea, the isolation, being away from family for months, the lack of real privacy, the tough schedule, what impact does all that have on magnifying these mental health challenges? Does it turn private struggles into these huge, public, and sometimes fatal emergencies? Something to think about.